So there's this cum bucket, Tasha Williams, who is taking my emotions, well, they all are now. While I'm asleep, she's assigned herself as data entry. So she's compiling the data from my life, distributing it throughout the hive mind as a form of control, a social control in the group, blackmail. And she does this with other victims. So they're in a frenzy for my brain right now, these poor black people in particular, with this white female, I call her Becky. So she then gets events for me living in New York City, because the handler slave, he's just another slave who's going to be an overseer over my life. He realized that I lived in New York and that you could interact with the memory, you could visualize it. So for instance, one of the things that he does is he likes to ejaculate while looking at the beautiful women that I was friends with. Beauty is not the most important thing. It can keep you safe in a capitalist system because you can get employment. You have a better chance of getting a better man than other women. It is collateral to be beautiful in a very unpleasant society that's shallow. So these women, these various women that I knew in the job market, friends, women I loved and cared about, they've got a visual of them. So what they would do is, one would say, let's see what her body looks like, her face. What did you say to her? What were you doing with her? And so right now, all the women are getting sexually aroused by the thought of seeing beautiful women that are real. So then the white male, because he's a porn addict and a child pornographer, he's a remote neural monitoring slave, but he does sex trafficking. He's assisting in sex trafficking and human trafficking in Kettering and Montgomery County. So these slaves work for nothing. They give them drugs. The drugs are cocaine, which means, ironically, I think voice-to-skull technology, remote neural monitoring is probably being used between drug dealers. That imagine that the drug dealers can communicate with other people in the state to distribute drugs to remote neural monitoring hive minds, because you wonder how could they stay up all night and harass you and abuse you and torture you and rape your soul. I know no one wants to say the soul because that's so intimate and personal, but this is a program to take your soul, to upload it into a computer, and then to get you to suicide yourself. Now, depending on the hive mind, how much they're obsessed with you, they don't want you to really kill yourself. The authority, the programmer, wants your suicide. But what they want you to do is to sell your soul and to beg for mercy. How is this going to happen? By constantly torturing you and terrorizing you and stalking you, that you would submit to a bunch of pathetic losers who are the puppets for the Illuminati. So the Illuminati has factions across the globe that are collecting souls, memories, data, things to publish, technical information, your intellectual property, all the characteristics that make an intelligent person can be uploaded onto the computer, and they can build a future for themselves while bringing the population down. This is Adolf Hitler's Nazi Party's agenda, to murder, to eliminate, to take and to extract, to take assets, to strip the nation, to strip the boundaries, the other countries and the world, and to take the souls of innocent people. They really want the souls of good people. That is the pedophile dream. The other thing I've noticed is I'm just kind of using stream of consciousness as I'm talking. I'm being an intellectual at this moment to the best of my ability. I am not I'm not a person who's qualified to explain how the technology works. I can say what they're doing to me socially. So, multiple people, I'd say about 5 black people, asked me questions just about New York, because everybody wants to be in New York, and losers who are too dumb or too lazy to figure out how to get a plane ticket, save up money to get a cheap hotel, go to a Broadway show and hang out and pretend to be a New Yorker. Well, my mother was offered a job as a teacher in New York. She didn't want to do it. She probably got talked out of it. She regretted it. So I kind of went. I was inspired by that, and I went. And it was incredibly hard to survive there. It's incredibly expensive. It's very traumatic. And I was young enough to take a lot of the battering for a metropolis economy. We're talking the average person who wants to live comfortably, like, say, this house. You're going to spend $1 million+ a year. How is that possible? God knows, because I couldn't do it. You can survive as a poor person. That means less calories, less goods, less products, less comfort, okay? But I did it, I left. And so most of it, it's not very interesting. What I will say that they found out is I worked for Russell Simmons, okay? And I'm telling you, as TIs, this was not the most exciting part of my life. He is a philanthropic, vegetarian, inspired capitalist. His two brothers, created the hip-hop sensation Run DMC. They made a clothing line called Fat Farm. They had an art gallery called Rush Arts. I worked at Rush Arts Gallery. I worked at Fat Farm. I worked at the philanthropic office, the headquarters for Russell Simmons. I worked for auctions. And like all the staff, there were 2 types of people he had working there. These were hardcore, loyal workers, okay, that were well taken care of. And then the artistic element, the creative element, which I belong to, it's service in the name of philanthropy and building black entrepreneurship. This is what this is, okay? Now, interacting with this, of course, I could see the, people's desperate, like, wow, if you live in New York, you run into all kinds of workers. When the internet blew up, there was a commercial, for example, and this was one of the first major commercials that became a sensation. It was about the computer industry. I don't remember the name of the computer industry, but I was at a bar, the whole thing is like, get a bar after work and recover and make friends, and that was fun, to be young and meeting interesting people. Brief. The guy from the commercial comes in. I said, oh, great. He had been busted for smoking pot, and then he was let go. They let go of his contract. And so he talked about it, and he was, we flirted, and it was really cool. And so there's like little things like that. I could go on, because after 9/11, my God. So, what else? All the cool artists that I met. Kehinde Wiley, actually. He started with Russell Simmons. That's not actually true. He did not start there. He got a lot of publicity going through that art gallery, Rush Arts. I got to hang out with Kehinde Wiley before he became incredibly famous. He's like the top 5 famous artists in the country, and he's black. Really nice person. I didn't really think anything. I was not a celebrity stalker. It's just not in my characteristics. As a teenager, I was vegetarian. I wore Birkenstocks. I was a member of Greenpeace. I read books about black racist theory, feminist theory, social engineering, like things about nationalism and how to prevent horrible events from happening. I wanted to be an activist. I wanted to get involved with multicultural diversity. This is the 80s, okay? This is what was on the press. Multiculturalism, I was born in 1970. So I'm 48. So if you interact with celebrities, I never really got that. I never really got into that. I was more interested in talking to people and interacting and having a face-to-face regular person. I was into being the proletariat that was a good person. The poor person that was good. I had no problem with that. The poor person that had a social agenda of bringing in a world that is safe and clean. A clean world with clean people, with good people. Okay, retraining myself to accept the group is more important. And the group includes all of nature. I was enthusiastic about the earth. I was not enthusiastic about Russell Simmons and Def Jam Records. It was a job. It was interesting. And to be honest, that kind of attitude really got me into little events and parties. They realized she's not going to bother us. Okay? For example, because the remote neural monitoring that's poor and black, they're trying to covet my memories and hold them for themselves in an attempt to mind control me to masturbate. So all of this hard work to survive 48 years, to be thrown to the wolves by the Illuminati, to be thrown away after 9/11, because that's when my life deteriorated. I was an emotional wreck. I was pushed out of the job market and into the streets, and I had to leave. And I heard a whisper. I heard music in my head, and it was not that interesting. I didn't think it was worth draining my soul dry to live in New York when I knew I wasn't going to be a successful capitalist. Okay? It's too hard to survive in New York City. Well, one example of how poor people who covet other people's life when they are fabulous, because the Simmons family is fabulous. They're talented and they're gifted. We're not all going to be that group. And it's okay to be poor and black. Don't be ashamed of being poor and black. I am poor and I'm black. So what? I'm also being tortured to death and gang raped repeatedly. By who? By other poor people. Okay? And I'm tired of it. Here is a cool, I haven't seen this color car. The house is for sale. That's not a stalker. Okay. So people are looking at the house. So I'm beginning to burn out in New York. Okay. I'm burning out. And my boss, he sees I'm talented at getting certain things. Like, for example, the head of the company, under the CEO, the director, says to me, you know, we don't want to cut expenses, we are. So either you're going to help us or you'll have to go. So figure something out. I said, no problem. And if that's a threat, no problem. So what I did is I got free alcohol for the art openings. So when there's an art opening in the gallery, we're talking, it could be a couple $1,000s worth of alcohol for one night. Okay, waiter, and food, crudité. So what I did is I went around, because I was a bar hopper at the time, and I met a guy from a beer company. I said, look, I work for Rush Art Gallery. You want to be sponsored on the flyer for an art opening. He said, oh, we would love to get that. That's press. Okay. Brought it back to her, and she said, wow, that was fast. I said, yeah, I can get, who else? I got Tanqueray. I got Bacardi, you know. Basically, they give us free alcohol, and all you have to do is put their logo on the invitation and the flyer, and somewhere where everyone can see it, and they get free advertisement. They're making hundreds of millions of dollars a year, okay? What do they care about $1,000 of alcohol? That's actually sold overpriced. So she said, well, that's so clever. How'd you do that? There was some kind of meeting with the staff. I said, well, I go out, I socialize a lot, and I get to meet lots of interesting people in New York City. You know, I got a job at the gallery, for example, and this is just, I'm doing this because they're coveting this foolishness. Okay, this is called a job. There's lots of TIs that worked at had incredible careers. This is not that interesting, okay? In fact, there's TIs that are like Randy Quaid. Okay, I'm not TI or what's his name? The guy from Canada. He was a Hollywood actor. He's a TI. I'm sure he has a lot of fun stories to share in the hive minds, just eating it up, you know, like porn. They treat us like porn. So this is my one, you know, I get proud. I'm a worker, you know. I was not in a union, but I was a hard worker. And so I asked my boss, I said, listen, I'm bored. I want to curate a show. A curating event is basically you decide what artists are going to be in the event, the art opening, and will be showcased for 30 days or more on the walls of a gallery. You organize it. You go through the slides of the artists. So I did this. I was excited. I even called my mother. And my boss was burning out because he was an artist. It's tough living in New York, like I said. And he said, good, because I'm so tired. I'm tired of curating and I can get a break. Go for it. The slides are in the drawer. I picked them out. I used my instincts. It's the first time in Rush Art's existence that every single artist sold a piece of artwork. They said, wow, Marilynn, that's interesting. Good job. The artists were like just, you know, giggling and smiling at me. And it was so sweet. And they were so happy. And they were such sweet people. And they were so nice, these artists. And they weren't famous. And they knew what that space could do. It could change their career. Okay. And I wanted to be an artist, but, you know, I really wanted to be an activist. And I was really kind of like, I need to get out of here, maybe find something else to do. But in the meantime, I will do these activities. There was a Hamptons fundraiser they have every year. Okay, in the Hamptons, at I think it is the Hamptons. So anyway, all these famous people from the entertainment industry, rich, wealthy individuals, come to this fundraiser. It's a great party. You can go online and look at it. Okay. I'm so embarrassed and I'm very shy periodically. After a couple drinks, it's nerve-wracking. So I had interns, and I was supposed to control these interns. I bought this fabulous top. I even dieted. I tried to look, eclectic as I usually do because I'm an artist, I'm creative. The people were friendly. So there's a tent. It's under a tent, a giant white tent. And there's tables, and there's dinner and cocktails, and there's a caterer and all that stuff. And the news media is there. So the interns, I said, okay, you guys, help me hang up the artwork in the tent. They disappeared, these cute little black girls. They wanted to look at the celebrities. And to be honest, I was just like bummed out because it was really hot and I'm sweating, my makeup's running. And I'm like, are you serious? So I'm asking people to help me hang up this artwork, and I'm becoming incredibly agitated. And I'm like, the interns are not, no one's helping me hang this artwork. Okay. That's the kind of BS that I just don't get, where you get a job, okay? You don't want to do it, even if you're paid or not paid. They were paid money as interns to be there. They didn't help me hang up the artwork. They didn't really help me unpack it. I had to get men and say, hey, sir, can you come here for a second? Help me unpack this. I had to ask staff that were involved in other parts of the event. And they were like, where's your interns? And I said, they're not, they're busy chasing down somebody who's famous, whatever. I give up. They're excited. They were really young. And then the event happens. But it's like, okay, and all the celebrities are there, and there's models, there's actors. Kelly Ripa was there. She's really fun. She has a lot of energy. There's all, I won't even say who was there because it doesn't matter. We're being terrorized and tortured to death. Okay? Now, what's interesting about this, whenever the remote neural monitoring is trying to recall my memories, they don't recall that a success story. What they recall is me being homeless, me having a panic attack, me being hungry, me being dirty or humiliated. They never say, oh my God, Marilynn did something really cool. Let me show you what it is. What they do after I tell that story, they find a horror story about my life and masturbate. While they command me to have a panic attack, they say, have a panic attack, have a panic attack, have a panic attack. By the way, I emailed the Simmons companies and not just to say to the person that collects the data, oh, by the way, I'm a former employer and I'm being tortured to death. And I might need your help in the near future because this is crazy. And also as a form of activism, you won't believe that they can see you through my memories. So that means if I'm in the office and Russell Simmons interacts with me, they can, when I go to sleep, they will say, Marilynn, did you ever see so-and-so? Can you show us what that interaction was? And the feeling, did you smell anything? A bunch of poor losers? A bunch of pedophiles? Rapists? There's a murderer. They just hooked up a killer to me. He tries to kill me every night. I fight for my life after working for Russell Simmons. How cruel a world it is. The proletariat's taking out proletariats. This is bullshit, okay? I don't deserve this. This is wasting my life. But I will say this. Workplace mobbing, I'm going to give you an example of workplace mobbing, and then I'm going to probably stop because they're humiliated. Now they're embarrassed by me talking about this. The whole thing is to shame you and have you in a frenzy of fear and anxiety. That's all this program is. And then to rape you. So, when you go into thoughts about like what you can and cannot remember, what data that you can recall, okay, sometimes they will block you. So the gay male, because he's a jealous person, he'll say, you don't remember anything. And so sometimes when you can't remember something, it's because they're telling you that you can't remember. They're basically telling you you can't remember. Okay? But I can remember and I will remember that I have a bunch of poor crackheads. The black male that they hooked up to me, he's a man. He's at least in his 40s. And he's a crackhead. I could hear, let me tell you, remote neural monitoring, I could hear him take the lighter and turn it on. So does somebody have a lighter? I can hear them talk out loud. I can hear them in their space if they make noises. This is the technology. This is advanced technology, and I'm being wasted. So workplace mobbing. The previous, employer, I'm working in a Rush Arts Gallery. Go look at it if you want. So a Christian, she's a Christian woman, she's an artist, she does sculpture. Large scale sculpture is really cool, it's big, and the one time she was at her happiest is when she was talking about her artwork, and her face would light up, and I was so nice and sweet, and she was really paranoid about me and why I was there, at working there. And I did everything to get along with her. I did everything to be friendly. And so she was kind of mean. So, this director that had told me, and there's another person looking at the other house. He works for Montgomery County. People are buying property in Kettering. They're selling and they're buying. Okay. So, the director, she's from Chicago. In Chicago, they're targeting, there's a protest today in Chicago. By the way, excuse me. The director says, I want you to keep an eye on her. I said, on my boss? Yes. I said, why? What did she do? Well, we just need you to watch her. We want to get rid of her. I said, okay. I don't have anything to do with this. I want nothing to do with this. Yeah, but you're the only other person that works there. And I was like, my God. Workplace mobbing. I never heard of such a thing. They said, listen, we're going to give you her job. And I thought, I don't want her job. And I really did not want her job. I like a job where I can just walk away when I get sick of it. Okay? And I was getting sick of it. I said, you are trying to get me to set her up? Absolutely not. I leave her office. I go back to the gallery. And I say, oh, by the way, they want me to spy on you and they want to give me your job. I'm giving you a heads up because they're going to start monitoring you. They want to fire you, basically. And I felt sorry for her. Well, there's probably some drama. She was a Christian and an artist. She was professional. She looked traumatized a little bit and said nothing. Okay, and she looked like she felt sick. I said, well, listen, I'm not interested and I'm not going to do it, but I'm giving you the heads up. Well, I call my friend who helped me get the job. His brother. Okay? This is what they're coveting, the blacks, the poor blacks of the West Side who smoke the crack cocaine. Okay? I said, my God, this is what they're doing at this company. He said, don't say one more word. It's a coup. I don't want to get sued. I don't want to hear anything. And he hung up. And I was like, my God, what does this mean? I even called my mother. I used to call my mother about everything. She'd send me dresses for work. Honey, I saw a dress on sale you can wear. She was so happy for me. She was just giddy. You know, it was like pure joy. For people who love their offspring and you call your mom, you know, or you hear your daughter or son say, I got a job. There's nothing more fantastic than that parent hearing that. And it was probably one of the peak moments between me and my mother. She was like, yeah, you're kicking ass. You moved to New York. You got a job with one of the coolest black families in the country. And you are employed. After that, I'm not even going to pretend that my life, I felt sick. I started to feel strange. People started acting weird towards me, strangers, and it was the beginning of gang stalking. It was also, I think, a test to see if I was a psychopath. This has happened before, where I get these tests from other psychopaths, and they say, we want you to do this, you know. And I can't do it. No, I'm not going to do that. That's mean. That's so mean. Don't do that to her. You know? And I even tried to talk to the director. Why don't you... She looked at me like, bitch, I'll replace you too if you don't do what I tell you to do. I'm telling you, I'm going to give you her job, and I want you to help me get her out of there. We don't want her. She was a Christian. I don't know why the hell they did it, to be honest. And I don't like being forced to remember things that I'm over. So this remote neural monitoring is coveting things. And that's one of the things that they coveted. And it's foolishness. Okay. And what I'm basically going to do is they tried to give me this super panic attack over memories that were caustic, memories that were a disappointment, things that are mediocre, uncomfortable moments. And then proceeding to rape me sexually and then mentally, to humiliate me because they can't have me the way they want me, which is to submit. I will not submit. I want to be an authentic person who does authentic things and experiences life in a good and a positive way. Okay? But I will be rebellious, goddammit, because forgive me for saying that. I will not submit to a false authority, okay? Not for money, not for blackmail, not for threat or rape or murder. They're threatening me to submit to a class of some dumb proletariat scumbags who need to be locked up in a federal prison. Absolutely not. You're busting my knee, you're breaking into my brain, you're giving me a heart attack, okay? You're making me sick. They're microwaving me, hitting me with directed energy weapons, shooting me in the feet so I can't walk, because the one thing I like to do is walk. They don't want me to walk. They want me to lay there like a vegetable and let these poor pieces of shit rape me while some handler from some stupid contractor like Infragard or Lockheed Martin jerks off to my memories. How pathetic. America is not great. It's creepy. For all UTIs, try to be positive. If this happens to you, it is going to be painful. Feel the pain and move on, and then keep busy. The best thing that you can do with this is to stay physically active. Interact with everyone in your community, as many people as possible, and tell Do not just sit there and take this abuse. It's overwhelming. Okay? These people who are reading your minds, these are not the elite of the FBI office. These are scumbags from your local community. Okay? These are basically sex offenders. I'm sorry to break the news to you. You can get on the conference calls and believe that everyone has a personal FBI worker or some important white official that sits there and mind hacks you. No, he's got poor overseers. Just look at the slave plantation. Go study the slave plantation, regardless of your concepts about racism. You can get a sense about how this is working. Ideological slavery, the transatlantic slavery. They're collecting the bodies. You don't mean anything to these people, and neither do I. We are a collective group. We're not individuals. That's a joke. That's probably a CIA psyop to get us to call ourselves individuals so we don't see ourselves as a group. We're a group of people. We are the nations of the world being attacked by something I believe fundamentally is the Jesuit military. I believe it's the Jesuit military. I believe that's exactly what it is. One of the reasons why they're probably using red. If you go look at this stupid Pope with his red shoes and his red hat and these stupid red trucks and these red vehicles and the red clothes, the blood, the sacrifice, the blood of Jesus. We're being sacrificed. Not because of some higher meaning for them or you. They're cruel, and they like to kill in mass. It's mass attack. It's mass murder. By the way, a really good band is Massive Attack. I mean, there's so many feelings that I had as a poor person living in New York City. They're handing them over to this white woman who's a crackhead, who's a pedophile and a rapist, who's remotely raping me from some home in Dayton, Ohio. Breaking the law of RICO, the RICO Act. Okay, selling me, trafficking me. It's ridiculous to a bunch of black men. They have a bunch of black men beating me down. They beat me down every day, and they love it, and then the women rape me. Okay, can you imagine? Your former employer is Russell Simmons, and now you're being raped by crackheads? It doesn't make any sense. It has nothing to do with Russell Simmons. It absolutely does not. Because I was targeted in the 80s. Okay? I was targeted in the 80s. When I was a child.